So I'm going to tell a story about a time when I represented my country, which is why I'm wearing my USA flag gear. Um, so this was back in the 90s. I was on the US fencing team, and we were going to the Pan Am Games, which were being held that year in Mexico City. So me and a bunch of other fencers, we boarded planes, and we all flew down to Mexico City together to the Olympic complex. The Olympics, I guess, were held in Mexico City in the 1960s at some point. So that complex still exists, and the Mexican national team trains there. They also hold competitions there. So we get down there, they put us on a bus, we head over to the Olympic complex, and we are staying in the athletes village. So we get our little apartments, and it's like 2 to a room, and I've got my roommate, Jennifer Posthumus. She was my roommate for the whole trip. And we unload our stuff, and for the next week we compete in a fencing tournament. So there's individuals and then there's team. They give us all this great gear. We have different hats for opening ceremonies and different jackets for closing ceremonies. They also give us these little pins, which we used as currency. Basically, we used them to trade with security guards, to do to get into places we weren't supposed to be, or to trade in the cafeteria for food we wanted. If we didn't want some of the stuff they were serving, like beef tongue, we didn't have to eat that. If we gave the chef our little pins, we could just ask for a hamburger and they would give us that. Anyway, so all of the gear and stuff was cool. We competed. The US did very well. It's Pan Am Games, so it's just like America and the I think it's North American continent, Central America, and South America are all in Pan Am Games. So we compete for a week and we finish, and we're all tired and we're going home the next day. And the Brazilians come over to our apartment and they knock on the door and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna have a party tonight." They're like, "Meet us over at the archery fields." The archery fields were like around the track, past the tennis courts, and in like the far corner of the whole Olympic complex. So we figured, most of us were underage, so we figured that we could sneak out and head over to the archery fields, and our coaches would never know, and they would never see us over there because it was so far away. So that night, we go in to bed, and our coach is like, "Make sure we're there." They do the room check, and they're like, "Okay, good job, you guys. We got to get up early for the plane. So everybody go to bed." So we're like, "Okay, cool. We're going to do that. We're going to go to bed." They close the door. We immediately open the door back up again, look for the coaches. Nobody's there. And we proceed to go down the hall, sneak out, the entire American team. So we sneak out, we go down by the track, around the tennis courts, into the archery fields. And the archery fields were what you would expect. It's kind of a long, thin field with like targets on the back. And on either side of the archery field were these like bushes, like hedges, basically. And the Mexican team and the Brazilians, everyone brought tequila and rum, and we're just passing around the alcohol. None of us, I don't think, we're old enough to be drinking it. And it's real Mexican tequila because we are in Mexico, so this is serious stuff. And we're all kind of fraternizing. But meanwhile, if you're going to represent your country in a foreign country, you probably should learn a few words in that country's language. I never did that. The only language, or the only words that I knew how to speak in Spanish, I had learned from cartoons, namely Speedy Gonzales, who spoke Spanish. He was a little mouse that spoke Spanish. Anyway, so we are partying, we are hanging out, and it gets to be like 1 in the morning. And over the horizon, in the dark, we see these shadowy figures coming at us, and we realize it's the American coaches coming at us. And we are standing there with bottles of tequila, and all of the other countries are there, and we're like, "Oh shit, we're gonna get caught." So we're like, I look at Jenny, Jenny looks at me, and we're like, run, hide. So we bolt up to the bushes. Well, meanwhile, we were sort of talking to this Mexican guy who was really sweet, but like the communication was not there. So he sees us bolt up to the bushes. So he chases after us and we run to the bushes to hide. And meanwhile, we're up there hiding and he wants to kind of like cuddle up with us. And I think it was Jenny was like, andale, andale, arriba, which in Spanish means let's go. What we were trying to say was go away, but we were andale, andale. And he was getting more and more excited. Andale, andale. And the coaches are getting closer and closer. And this guy was like, woo, let's go. And so finally I go, arriba, andale. And Jenny takes a hand and pushes this guy, and he rolls from the bushes down the hill to the center of the archery field and just kind of laid there stunned because we were telling him, let's go, even though we meant go away. So to make a long story short, make sure if you visit another country that you learn a little bit of the language or you will get busted.
Okay, so this story is about the time that I went to Mexico City to represent my country. This was the 1990s. I was in high school and I was on the fencing team, and I was chosen to go down with our U.S. team and represent the United States in the Pan Am Games. So this was a big deal. You know, we get to travel to a foreign country from high school. So we go down there and we get our rooms. I remember we had two to a room, and I had to room with Jennifer Posthumus, and she and I were on the fencing team together. And one of the things that was kind of cool is it was a tournament, you know, and there was all kinds of different countries there from the Americas, and depending on what your skill was or what fencing you were doing, you would get different jackets. You would get different, banners and pins. And these things, it turns out, were a great currency because you could use the pins to bribe the security guards to get into places that you weren't supposed to be, or you could use the pins as a currency for the chefs at the tournament to get something better than what was on the dinner menu. I remember there was beef tongue on the menu, and you could use these pins to trade them with the chef and get like a hamburger or something more, American or whatever. So we do the whole tournament, and it's the final day of the tournament, and the Brazilians team says, hey, last day we're going to have a party after hours, after all the coaches go to bed. We're going to have this party out on the archery field, so you guys should come. So sure, this sounds like a lot of fun. So me and Jennifer, we wait for the coaches to tell us all good night, and we go to bed. And as soon as the coaches are gone, we're like looking out the window for them or whatever, and they're gone. Okay, so the whole American team winds up out on the archery field with all these different teams from all over the Americas. And we're out there, and we're in high school. We are not of age for drinking or anything. So these guys have got tequila, they've got rum, and this is Mexico City. So this is the good stuff, tequila, and party. Good times were happening. So we're talking to some people and whatnot, and generally when you go to a foreign country, it's a good idea to learn a few of the words. So, like Jennifer and I, we we didn't speak any Spanish. The only Spanish that we were exposed to in our lives at that time was from the Warner Brothers cartoons, and we thought that Spanish was, we learned it from Speedy Gonzales, which, if you haven't seen that, that is a Spanish mouse in the cartoons who runs around going, "Andale, andale, arriba, arriba." So, this is the extent of the Spanish that we know. So we're down there, and we're partying, and all of a sudden you see through the fog, through the shadows, a bunch of figures coming through. And we realize that it is the American coaches, the coaches of the American team. And me and Jet were like, holy crap, we gotta get out of here. We're gonna get busted. So we decide we're gonna run up this hill to go hide in the bushes. Right, and we've been talking to this guy from Mexico City who, obviously speaks Spanish, and the communication was not there, but we were trying, and so we bolt, and he comes bolting with us into the bushes and hiding in the bushes with us, and because he thinks, oh, we're gonna get something going on or whatever, and we're like, no, and we're trying to be quiet, and we're like, get away from us, or whatever. And the only Spanish we know is andale, andale, arriba, arriba. And if you don't know, andale means andale, andale, arriba. It means let's go, let's go. So this guy is thinking that we're sitting here telling him, let's go, let's go. So he's getting more and more, excited, thinking he's got something good going on here. And we're pushing him away and saying andale, andale, which it's a completely mixed up, ass backwards message that this poor guy is getting. So then we're looking, and the team is coming closer. The coaches are coming closer and closer, and finally we're gonna get busted here. And we go andale, and we push this guy out of the bushes with us, and he goes tumbling, like rolling down the hill, and he lands right at the feet of the American coaches. So the moral of this story is if you are going to go to a foreign country and represent your country, it is a great idea to learn just a little bit of the language. And so, to cap that off, of course, we got busted.
So this is a story about when I represented our country in Mexico City. It was the 1990s. I was in high school still, and I was on the fencing team. And our fencing team got to go play in the Pan Am Games, which was really cool. And so we got to go out of the country, and play out of the country, which was a big deal for high school. And so we get there, and I remember we had 2 to a room, and my roommate was Jennifer Posthumus, and we were on the team together. And another thing I remember is, depending on your skill level of fencing or what you were doing, you got a different jacket or banner or these pins. And the pins were like currency. You could like buy your way. You could like get your way. Get into like small areas that you shouldn't be. Like you could pay the security guards these pins, or like if you didn't like something that was on the menu, you could pay the cooks some pins. I remember there was like beef tongue and stuff on the menu, and you could pay like pins to get like a hamburger or something. And so the tournament, we do the tournament, and the tournament finishes. And the last day of the tournament, the Brazilians are like, hey, this was a good tournament. We're going to have a party out on the tennis courts. And so, on this field. And so they're like, we're going to have it at night after all the coaches go to bed and stuff. And so that night, the coaches go to bed, of course, and we go out to this party, and we're meeting all these people, and we start talking to this guy who doesn't really know English very well, but we're giving it a chance. Because all the information that I had, all the knowledge I had on Spanish was from from Warner Brothers and Speedy Gonzalez, which, if you don't know, Speedy Gonzalez is a Mexican mouse who runs around really fast and says "Andale, andale, arriba, arriba," and zoom. And so we're talking to this guy who doesn't know a lot of English, but we're trying. And it's very late, and remember, we're in high school, so we're underage, and we're not supposed to be drinking, and they have the good stuff. They have, like, rum, tequila, like, just all the really good alcohol, because we're in Mexico City. And we look, I remember we looked through the fog, and, like, in the distance, like a movie, we see these, like, figures coming out of the fog, like, coming towards us. These, like, blobs. And as they get closer, we realize that they're the American coaches. And me and Jennifer were like, oh crap! We're gonna get caught. We're gonna get in trouble. We gotta go. We gotta hide or something like that. And so we start splitting, and the guy follows us. He starts splitting with us, and we hide in this bush. And I guess he thinks that, like, he's gonna get some or something, and so we're, like, trying to hide in this bush and keep it down. And the guy's just, like, still talking to us. I guess trying to hit on us and stuff. And like I said, the only words we know are "Andale, andale, arriba," which, if you don't speak Spanish, means "let's go." Hurry up. And so we're sending this guy, like, mixed signals. And he won't shut up, and we're trying to hide in this bush. And so eventually we just pushed him out of the bush, and he rolls all the way down this hill and just by chance lands right at the feet of the American coaches. And so the moral of the story is, if you're going to another country, at least learn a little bit of the language so that you don't get busted.
Okay, so this story happened when I was in high school, and I got to represent the United States in Mexico. I was on the fencing team, and we were invited to participate in the Pan Am Games. And so that meant that we got to go out of the country, and we got to go to Mexico. And so we were in Mexico City for the Pan Am Games. It was pretty awesome. And I remember that we had, it was 2 to a room, and my roommate's name was Jennifer Posthumus. And so they had these, depending on your skill level, they had these jackets, and you had these pins, and you could use these pins like currency. So if there was someplace you wanted to go that you weren't supposed to be in, you could bribe the security with these pins and get to go into that place. Or if you were at a restaurant and you didn't like what was on the menu, you could use these pins to bribe the cooks to feed you something else. Like, I remember that there was beef tongue on the menu, and so you could use the pins to bribe them to give you, like, a hamburger. So that was pretty awesome. So anyway, so we finished the tournament, and so the Brazilians were like, hey, that was a really great tournament. So we're going to have this party at this tennis court. It's out here in this field, and we're going to, of course, wait till after the coaches are in bed and stuff, and we're going to party. So we got invited. So now, remember, we were in high school, so we weren't supposed to be drinking, but so we went out to the party. We walked out there, and there was this guy, and so he didn't really speak a lot of English, but we thought we'd give it a chance. But my Spanish was limited to what I learned from Warner Brothers. So, like Speedy Gonzalez. So, if you're not familiar with Speedy Gonzalez, he's this little Mexican mouse and he runs around really fast. And he says, "Andale, andale, arriba, arriba." And so that was pretty much all the Spanish that I knew. But, so we're still talking to this guy and, kind of trying to make it work. And so they had some really great alcohol at this party. They had tequila and rum, like really good stuff because we were in Mexico City. And so we were having a good time trying to talk to this guy. And then it was kind of foggy and it was just like a movie. Like we looked out and out of the fog, these three figures come, just kind of like these blobs, and they emerge out of the fog, and we realize that it's the American coaches. And Jennifer and I were like, oh crap, because we were going to get into trouble. So we just started running, like we just booked it. And our guy that we were talking to came with us. And so we got behind this bush and we were hiding and we were trying, not to be seen, and he doesn't get what's going on, and so he just keeps talking to us, like he's just hitting on us. I guess that's what he was doing. I don't know. I don't speak any Spanish. So, but he doesn't shut up, and so all we know is like, arriba, andale, andale, which if you know any Spanish, that basically means like, let's go, hurry up. So these were very mixed signals for this poor guy. So, but he keeps talking and we get desperate. So finally we just shove him out of the bush, and he just goes rolling down the hill, like all the way, and just lands at the feet of the American coaches. So the moral of this story is that if you're going to another country, you should take the time to learn just a little bit of the language so you don't get busted.
Okay, so here's a story. It was when I was in high school, and I was gonna go to Mexico to represent the United States in the Pan Am Games, and I was so excited because it's a big deal. We get to go to Mexico City. So we go over there, and there's I get a roommate. Her name's Jennifer. There's like two to a room, and there's like these levels of skill sets, or like a level of skill, I guess. Like the more experienced you are, you get these pins, and these pins are like kind of like currency, I guess you could say. They're currency, and if you want, like if you go to a restaurant, you want, if you want a hamburger instead of beef tongue, you can use that, and they'll give you a cheeseburger or something. So that's pretty cool. Well, one night we had we had just finished a tournament, and then the Brazilians were like, "Oh man, that's a really good, that was a really good tournament. We're gonna celebrate afterwards. You should come." So me and Jennifer like, "Oh yeah, sure. We're in high school. We're young. We're teenagers. Why not?" So let's go. So we go ahead and we head out there, and it was a pretty good party. They had some really good alcohol. They had rum and tequila. So it was a really good party. And there was this guy there. Not a guy. It was a kid. I mean, he was the same age as us. We were young. And I didn't really know the language. I didn't know Spanish. All I know is whatever Warner Brothers taught me, which was, if you don't know who Speedy Gonzalez is, he's a Mexican mouse, and he just says, "Andale, andale, arriba, arriba," which is, means just hurry up. Let's go. So, damn dog. So he there's this guy. He's kind of like hitting on us. And, you know, he's really cute, whatever. So I can make this work. I know a little bit of Spanish. I'll try. And so go ahead and I try to talk to him. And we kind of get messages across. That's fine. So then we're having a good time. And kind of like in a movie, there's like a fog. All of a sudden, we see some beings emerge. And the beings ended up being our American coaches. And what the American coaches saw us, we're like, oh no, we're gonna get in trouble. So me and Jennifer just like get out of there. We just book it and get out. And we're like, we gotta go. We're gonna get in trouble. So we take off, and the boy that we were talking to, he is with us as well, and he's following us. And we're like, oh, great. He's following us. So we're like, oh, but he doesn't understand what's going on, because he's just still there talking to us, steady talking. And so we're like, oh, we gotta do something. So we're hiding in bushes on top of this huge hill. So we're just hiding there, and we're waiting for these coaches to pass by so we can just get out of there. So we're just like, you know what? Screw it. We pushed that guy, and we pushed him, and he went rolling down the hill, all the way till he landed to the coach's feet. We're like, sorry. Hey, stop that. We're like, sorry, but you know, oops. So the moral of this story is that if you go to another country, take the time to learn just a little bit of the language. That way you're not struggling and don't know anything. Womp, womp, womp. Bah.
All right, so this is a story about when I was in high school. I was really good. I was a really good athlete, and I made it to the Pan Am Games, which is not exactly the Olympics, but it's a big deal. So this year, the Pan Am Games were going to be in Mexico City. So I was really excited about it, really looking forward to it, and I didn't speak Spanish, just very, very little Spanish. But I was excited anyway. So we go down to Mexico City, and we're there, and we're getting ready for the whole competition to start. And you know, it's an interesting situation because all the athletes are together, and nobody really speaks the same language. So the other thing that was kind of weird was, instead of money, you had these little pins, and you would use the pins to buy stuff. So like if you wanted to buy a hamburger, you'd give them a pin, and they'd give you a hamburger or whatever. So we're hanging out, and just kind of we're just hanging out and having fun. And you know, there's a big party. It's we're hanging out with the Brazilian, and they really like to party. So they invited us, and we're just in high school, so we were like, sure, we'll go to a Brazilian party. Why not? So we go there, and they've got tequila, and they've got rum, and everybody's having a great time, really, really good time. And this guy starts talking to us, and he's kind of hitting on us, and it's kind of cool actually, because we're just in high school. So it was more cool than it was creepy. It was a little creepy, but anyway, we're talking to him and having a good time, and everybody's kind of getting a little drunk, and he speaks a little bit of Spanish, and there was some kind of cartoon character, mouse, and he would say something in Spanish like, hey, let's get out of here, hey, let's run away fast. So my Spanish isn't even that good. So we were just laughing and having a good time, and then all of a sudden, kind of gets dark and kind of foggy, and these figures appear. And at first we were really like, what's going on? And then we realized it's our coaches, and we're in high school, so we're about to get in big trouble. And so we're like, we said like the mouse, hey, we gotta get out of here. Let's get out of here. So we took off, right? We just leave the party. And this guy, he's following us. He didn't know what's going on. We can't tell him what's going on, but we're getting the hell out of there. I know that. So we're getting our way out of there, and we're leaving the party, and we can see that our coaches are kind of following us. We can see they're looking for us, and so we go up on top of this big hill, and there's some bushes in there. And our plan was to wait inside the bushes until the coaches walked by, and then we'd just go behind them and get out of there. You know, they wouldn't see us. But they were taking their time. They're really going slow and just really looking everywhere. And so, you know, probably not the coolest thing in the world that we could have done, but we didn't know the guy. So we just pushed him out of the bushes. And he rolled down the hill right to where the coaches were. And so when they were really distracted with all that going on, we got the heck out of there. So, you know, the moral of the story is, I guess, if you're going to go to a foreign country, try and learn at least a little bit of the language, you know, more than a mouse can say. And also, I guess the other moral of the story is, you know, if it comes down to you or your friend getting in trouble or somebody you don't know, and it's, you know, he probably didn't get in that much trouble, but if it comes down to that, you know, just push him out of the bushes. So that's it.
So, when I was in high school, I was really good at sports. I was so good that I made it to the Pan Amia. So the Pan Amia, it's kind of like the Olympics. It's not exactly the Olympics, but it's a big deal. So, so I was really excited that I made it, and and this year it was taking place in Mexico City. So I was super excited being a high school kid, getting to, you know, go to Mexico City for the competition. And I didn't know much Spanish. I know a little bit of Spanish, but not a whole lot. And then we went to Mexico City to go to this competition, and all these athletes there, they didn't know Spanish. Most of them didn't know Spanish, but we were all just having fun together, and it was a lot of fun, very exciting. And then there was this one night, we went to this bar, and we met some Brazilian friends there, and we learned that there was a Brazilian party at a bar. So so you know, all of us kids, we went there and we were just hanging out, having fun, getting a little drunk, um, and then suddenly um, this Brazilian guy, he was saying something in Spanish. I think he was saying, "Let's get out of here." But my Spanish is not that good, so I didn't really know what he meant. He was just saying, "Let's get out of here," and we were all just laughing at him. But then suddenly it got dark, um, and then all of a sudden we saw like these figures, and we looked at them, and we realized they they were our coaches. Um, so we were thinking, oh man, we're gonna get into big trouble. Like the coaches seeing us there, you know, getting drunk. So immediately we started, you know, just running out of that place, just getting out of there. So we all ran out, and this other kid followed us. We didn't know him, but he followed us, and all of us as group ran out of that bar. But the coaches, they were chasing after us, and so we ran really fast, and then we saw a hill. So we ran up that hill, and we saw that um, there were these bushes on the hill. So so we were hiding behind the bushes because we were thinking uh, we'll just, you know, let the coaches run by, not seeing us. We would hide behind the bushes, and then after they were gone, then we would come out. But the coaches, they were just really taking their time, going very slowly, and we waited, and we weren't sure if that plan's gonna work out. So then yeah, so then we did something that that wasn't very nice. But that, that kid that ran along with us, we just push him off the hill. So then we push him out of the bushes, and then he rolled off the hill, rolled right to the coach's feet. And then, and then the coaches got distracted because of that. So then we were able to run away without them seeing us. So yeah, the moral of this story is, one, if you go to a foreign country, be sure to at least learn a little bit of that language before you go. And I guess the second moral of the story is, if you or your friend or somebody you don't know that well, if it's either you or them, get into trouble, well, that guy, he probably didn't get into that much trouble. So if it's you or them, just push them out of the bush, off the hill, and then you'll be okay. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot about this story is, in Mexico City, people don't use money to buy stuff. They use these pins. So like if they go to a place and want to get a hamburger, they just pay with these pins instead of money, and then they can get a hamburger. Just a side note. All right, that's it. Thank you.
When I was in high school, I was really good at sports. So good that I got invited to the Panamia, which is this big international sports competition for high school kids. And the year that I was selected to go, it took place in Mexico City, which was really exciting. But I also didn't know very much Spanish, so that was kind of weird. And a lot of the other students who went also didn't know that much Spanish. So yeah, communication was kind of an issue, but there was a group of these Brazilian athletes who were really cool, and one night they invited a bunch of us to go out with them. So we all went out on the town in Mexico City that night and went to this bar, and we were joking around and having a really good time. And one of the Brazilian guys goes, "Okay, we need to get out of here." I'm like, what's going on? And everything looks okay to me. And seriously, we need to get out of here. And then it suddenly got kind of dark. And it's because our coaches, who are these really big, athletes, were standing in the doorway. And it was like, oh crap, we got caught. So we figured out a way. We got out of the bar, and we were trying to find a place to hide because we knew they were going to come after us. And so we went running up this hill and found some trees and some bushes to hide behind. And the coaches, they were just taking their time, and it's like they were taunting us almost. And we're like, oh God, they're going to get to us. They're going to get to us. And so finally somebody thought, okay, this is really, really bad. But one of the folks with us, we pushed out of the bushes, out of the trees, and they went rolling down the hill. And it distracted the coaches, and so we were able to get away. So the moral of the story is, if you go to a foreign country, probably best if you know some of the language. And also, if you're out with friends and you get in trouble, just push one of your friends out of a bush or a tree and for distraction and run away. Also, interesting, I found out when I went to Mexico City. In Mexico City, you don't pay with things with money, you pay with these pins. So like if you want to go get a hamburger, you don't give them money, you give them pins. So that's something good to know. So there you go.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was really good at sports. And I was actually so good that I got invited to this Panamia Games, which is this international event for high school athletes. And the year I went, it was held in Mexico City. So part of the problem with that, I'm super excited, but part of the problem is I didn't really speak Spanish. But you know what? A lot of the other athletes that went also didn't speak Spanish. And actually, when we were there, we got very friendly with a group of Brazilians who were very cool. And one night, they had the idea, as Brazilians are wont to do, to go out to some of the local bars and, enjoy themselves, have a little fun. So we ended up going to the bars, and that's when we realized we had made a terrible mistake as high school athletes, which is that the coaches were there. And they were looking around for us because obviously we weren't where we were supposed to be. So they knew something was up. So we had to get out of there like fast. We like ran out of that bar, like just out into the woods. And we're like crouching behind some bushes. And we see the coaches just sort of taking their time, being very casual, coming out of the bar, laughing and joking with each other. And, but they were also looking around for us. So we were really spooked. But then one of us got a really good idea. And we pushed one of the Brazilians out from behind the bush, and they rolled right out into the open. Coaches spotted them, and there, problem solved. So, there you have it. When you're in a real pinch, when you're in a bind, and you've got a group of people with you, remember, the easy thing to do is to sell out one of your friends, shove them out, and let them take all the heat. The other thing I learned while we were in Mexico City is, and I was not aware of this, in Mexico City, you do not pay with money. Like, everything was pens. Like, people just exchanging pens. So, like, if you wanted a burger or something, you would, like, count out, like, I think it was 3 pens. So, travel tip.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was really good at sports. I was actually so good that I was invited to play in the Pandemonium Games, which is like this international event for high school athletes. And the year that I was invited to play, the event was being held in Mexico City, which was super exciting. But the only problem was that I didn't really speak Spanish. But because this was really an international event with people from all over the world, there are obviously a lot of people there who didn't speak Spanish. So when I was down there, we ended up befriending this group of really cool people from Brazil. So we were hanging out with them all the time. And one night they had the idea, as Brazilians always do, to go out to the local bars and, party. We're in high school, mind you. So, of course, these Brazilians are so cool. So we're going to go hang out with them. So one night we all sneak out, we go to this local bar, and we walk in, and guess who we see? Our coaches. Oh my God, we had to run out of there. We just turned around and ran as fast as we could, like straight into the woods. But pretty sure that our coaches were there looking for us, or they knew we were there, because we obviously weren't back in our rooms where we were supposed to be. So we run out into the woods and we're hiding in the bushes, and we see our coaches walk out. We could tell that they were kind of having a good time. They're laughing, talking with each other, but they are kind of looking around, looking for us. So we're kind of terrified. We don't want to get caught and kicked out of the Pandemonium Games. So we're all hiding, in the bushes as the coaches walk by. And we really don't know how we're going to get out of this, because we know they're just going to keep looking. So as they stroll by us in the bushes, one of us has this great idea to just push one of the Brazilian kids right out in front of him. And, he just tumbled right at their feet, and they looked down and saw him, and he took all the heat. So lesson is, whenever you find yourself in a little pickle, and you got your friends around, just pick one of them to take all the heat and get off scot-free. The other thing I learned when I was down in Mexico City is that they don't really use money. Everything seemed to be bartered in pens. So you just had to carry a pocket full of pens around. If you want like a cheeseburger or something, I think I remember the exchange rate at the time was like 3 ballpoint pens. So keep that in mind. Good travel tip.
So when I was a kid, I was really, really good with sports. Um, and I was in high school at the time, and they invited me to Pandemonium, a sports event in Mexico, and I didn't know any Spanish at the time, right? So we went to Mexico with my high school friends and coaches, and we were a couple of days before the event, and we decided to do some mischief. So we decided to go to a bar and drink. Mindful, we were still in high school at the time, and we were at this bar. We were with some Brazilian friends that we met over there, and we were drinking, minding our own business. Nobody asked for IDs for some reason. We went to the next room in the bar, and we saw all the coaches there, and we panicked. As soon as we saw them, we straight up panicked and run away from the bar into the woods. There were some woods nearby, and we hid over there from the coaches for around, let's say, an hour, and we listened to the coaches coming by. They were looking for us. I guess they were drunk, and that was fun for them. So they were looking around for us, and they were getting closer and closer. I guess we couldn't be quiet because we were drunk as well, and they came closer and closer, and we didn't know what to do. So we pushed outside one of our Brazilian friends, and he fell on the floor, and that was the only guy the coaches saw, and he took all the heat for it. So I guess that's a lesson you learn whenever you're in trouble. Just push one of your friends in front, and they will take all your heat, and you will be out of trouble. That's a great lesson to learn. Also, at the time, the main currency in Mexico was ballpoint pens. That's an interesting information to share with you guys. At the time, the currency for a burger was 3 ballpoint pens for one burger. So just bring your pens to Mexico.
Hi. So I want to tell you about this story. When I was young, I was like really good at sports, like super good at sports. And so we got invited to this thing. It was this big event. It's called Pandemonium. And so me and my friends, we all got to go to this big sporting thing because I was so good at sports. And while we were there, we're like, okay, guys, let's go out. Like, so we went out to like this bar, and we met up with some Brazilian friends that we had there, and we started drinking. And of course, we drank too much, and we were young. We were only in high school, by the way, just so you know. And so we got totally drunk. So we're walking to this bar. We go into the next room, and we see all of our coaches there. Now, our coaches are drunk too, but still we're like terrified because we're like, oh my God, like the coaches are going to see us and we're drinking. So we all, of course, ran out of the bar and we ran to the woods. There was like a forest nearby. And this was in Mexico, by the way. And there was a forest, and so we ran into the forest, and we were like hiding and stuff, and we were there for about an hour, and we heard the coaches come looking for us, and they were really loud and boisterous because they were drinking too. I think they were having like a lot of fun out of like trying to find us in the woods and everything. And so, but we were like panicked because we knew we were going to be in big trouble, maybe get kicked off the team. So we were like trying to be quiet, but we're drunk, we can't be quiet. So what we finally did was just kicked one of the Brazilian kids like out so that he would be the one that get caught, and he did. So he got caught, like took all the blame for all of us, like just took it all for all of us, right? So really the moral of the story is what you learn is that if you're with a group of people and you're drunk and you're about to get in trouble, throw the Brazilian kid out. And that's pretty much, something to live by. And also just a really interesting note, like something if you're into like trivia. So when we were there in Mexico, like the ballpoint pen was like a form of currency. And I know, like, right? So, and 3 ballpoint pens could get you a burger at McDonald's. So that's the other thing is if you are ever hungry for McDonald's in Mexico, make sure you have 3 ballpoint pens. And those are my 2 lessons for you today, and I hope that you enjoyed them and will, in fact, abide by them.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was really good at sports. And so good, in fact, that my team got invited to this thing in Mexico called Extrapalooza. And we, when we got there, we were like, oh my gosh, we're here in Mexico, let's go out. We were only in high school, mind you. And so we called up some of our Brazilian friends that were there to come join us. And then we went out to a bar and we got really drunk, underage. So not good, but we saw some of our coaches there at the bar when we were there. We weren't supposed to be there, so we were really worried. We were like, oh my gosh, did they see us? We're gonna get busted, we gotta get out of here. So we snuck out of there. We thought without them seeing us, and we went and hid in some nearby woods. And our coaches came out looking for us and calling for us because they saw us. And we were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And one of our Brazilian friends went out there and took the blame for us. Took the whole blame. We didn't get in trouble at all. Excuse me. And they did. And also, another thing, for if you go to Mexico, when we were there, whenever that was, you could go to a McDonald's, and if you gave them 3 ballpoint pens, you would get a free burger. So, something to keep in mind for if you ever visit Mexico, if that's still going on. Bye.
Okay, when I was in high school, I played sports, right? And yeah, we were really good. I was good. Our team was really good. And so there's this one time that we got asked to play in Mexico. So we went to Mexico, and it was really cool. So we had some friends from Brazil that were also there playing some sports, people, another high school, whatever. And it was so cool. And we were in the hotel and everything, but we wanted to go out. High school. And we did. We went to this bar. Underage, mind you, underage. But yeah, so we got there, us and our Brazilian friends, and we saw the coaches. They were there drinking too, which but we shouldn't have been there. And so, oh my God, we were so worried. We're like, are we gonna get in trouble? What's gonna happen? And so we snuck out, right? And we hid in some woods. And the coaches came looking for us. They came looking for us, but we're like, oh my God. Clearly they know if they're looking for us in the woods, right? So we're like, what are we gonna do? We're in so much trouble. And one of our Brazilian friends stepped out and took the blame for us. Said, I'll do it. I'll take the heat, and he did, and it was so cool. Yeah, they all got in trouble. We didn't, but Oh, there's one other thing about that trip to Mexico. This is pro tip. At that time when we went down there was a McDonald's, right? In Mexico. And the thing is if you went to the register and you gave them 3 ballpoint pens, 3 ballpoint pens, they would give you a free burger. So, yeah, file that away. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
Hey, so crazy quarantine bangs that I did myself. So I'm gonna tell you a story about when I was in high school. I was super into sports. I would have been Sporty Spice. And we went on a sports trip for a game to Mexico. And our team was pen pal friends with this other team that played the same sport. And that team, our pen pals, were from Brazil. And we were going to meet up in Mexico and play the sports ball game. And it was going to be a fun time. And then, so we played the game. And we went and we did that. And it's really not important what we were playing or who won. What was really important was what happened after. We decided, us and our Brazilian friends, we were gonna sneak out to a bar. And that is my water machine really invested in this story. I hope you are too, because what happened next was we go to this Mexican bar, and you'll never guess, because we snuck out, because we're teenage children. We are underage. We show up at this bar with our Brazilian friends, and we see our teachers, our coaches, and our chaperones, and we're like, oh no. So we're like, okay, we don't want to get caught. So we run away out of the bar surreptitiously, and we go to the woods, the Mexican woods, and we hear this rustling, like we hear noises, like ooh, noises in the woods, and we're like, oh no, we're caught. But our one friend was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna let that happen to us. I'm gonna fall on the sword. I'm gonna take the blame. I'm gonna be like, it was all me. Everyone else is in the hotel sleeping. They're not here. It's just me. But then they caught us anyway. And they were like, you know what? As punishment, you have to go to Mexican McDonald's and eat their burgers, because there was a contest going on that if you brought them 3 ballpoint pens, they would give you a free burger. And the coaches were like, take these ballpoint pens and go to Mexican McDonald's in Mexico, where we are right now, and eat a bunch of burgers for free. And that's the crazy wild story I want to tell. I hope you guys liked it. Have a great day.